good afternoon, Googlers, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are joining us from today. We'd like to welcome everybody to our final episode of Summer Saturday's Back-2-Basics. And there we go, there's the intro slide. And my name is Georgina Dean. I am the leader for GEG Amman, and this is the English episode. So if you would prefer to listen in Arabic, please tune in 1 hour from now at 4 p.m. Jordan time, which is GMT +3. And you'll be able to listen to this session from our lovely counterpart host, Mutassim. So basically today what I will do first is drop the agenda for today in the chat for everybody. Stand by for that. There we go. All right, so here is the agenda link for today so that you're welcome to follow along with us live in the session on the Google Slides sheet and Google Slide. Yeah, perfect. Okay, awesome. So today is part 2 of the Google Classroom intro. So last week we took a look, here was episode 1 or part 1 of the Google Classroom intro, and we basically took a look at all of the basic features for Google Classroom: how to log in, how to add students and teachers, how to set your permissions for your classroom, and post an announcement on the stream for your class. So these are the things we covered, and you're welcome to check out our channel if you'd like to revisit that again. Good afternoon, Mohammed. Welcome. It's nice to see you here. Please let us know where you're joining us from so other people can connect with you, and feel free to drop your Twitter handle as well. I'm sure everyone would love to connect. Mohammed actually has recently been accepted as the GEG Lahore leader in Pakistan, so congratulations to Mohammed, and we are super excited to be celebrating you at our monthly webinar tomorrow as well. So congratulations and welcome. Okay, so these are the points that we covered from part 1 of Google Classroom, and this is the agenda for part 2 of Google Classroom today. So we're going to take a look more in depth in the classwork tab of Google Classroom so that we can see how we can post different types of things in the classroom to have those engaging and interactive experiences with our students. We have some Google Classroom extras below, as you can see here in section 2 of this thread. However, that being said, we may not get to all of it since this is just a back to basics series, and the originality reports and the rubrics definitely are a bit more of an advanced section. But if there's time left over in today's 30-minute session, then they're there. We'll touch on them. If not, they're already embedded so that you're able to follow up on your own independently, and you can always join tomorrow evening's office hours by clicking on the calendar link here if you would like to see that in more detail, and or you've checked it out and would like to give it a try. So that's awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started then. So as a refresher, how do we get to Google Classroom? So you remember we can do it from the Omni box by clicking on a new tab to join, or easier, if you're already logged into Google Drive, for example, you can click on your Google Apps menu at the top right, and you can choose your Google Classroom app. Remember, top tip for me is always to move these apps around in your Google Apps menu to make them convenient for the ones that you use most frequently at the top, so it's easy access. All right, so when that happens, then we have Google Classroom live here, and we can see the different Google Classrooms that I have set up. So last time we were together, we had created this Year 10 Google Classroom, Year 10 Maths Google Classroom. So we'll continue to work in that one for today. And please feel free, if you have any questions along the way, to drop them in the chat. We have 2 amazing Googlers who are there to help you, as well as I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. Okay, so let's get started. So here inside the classwork tab, this is where we're able to create all sorts of engaging, exciting activities for our students. This will be super big key as we consider re-entry to school. Some schools for the 2020 2021 academic school year are going to be in person. Some are going to be completely remote, so distance learning again, and some are going to be going into a hybrid blended learning approach where there's a little bit of in-school time and a little bit of online blended learning as well. So Google Classroom is a brilliant platform for you as an educator or an education leader to be able to share and create those motivating and engaging experiences for learning where your students and you can interact together inside the Google Classroom space. So before we get started, it's probably a really good idea to set up this space so that it's very easy for your students to be able to navigate through the different topics. So if we take a look at today's agenda, the first topic on the agenda for today is how to add topics to the classwork page. And just to remind everybody, if you see a hyperlink there, it means that it's embedded with a link to the Google Classwork support page where you can find the details of what we're going through together. So if you'd like to review it at your own pace or read through the step-by-step instructions, then that is all embedded for you. Okay, so let's take a look together on the classwork page. In order to create topics, that's how you could organize things. You're going to click on this pink create button. It may be a different color in your Google Classroom depending on the theme that you chose. However, we chose this theme and therefore the layout is pinkish red. So we click on the create button and now there are different things that you'll see. I do see the Checkin Assignment button, just so everybody's clear. That is an extra feature that I have added on into my domain. But if you're just using the basic Google Classroom without any add-ons, then you wouldn't necessarily see the Checkin Assignment function there. So what you would see is any of these other listed items in pinkish red. I say pinkish red because I don't know if it's actually pink or red that you guys are seeing on the other side of the screen, but we'll go with pink, I guess. Okay, so how do we organize topics? If you scroll to the bottom of this list, you will see the topic word. So you click on topic and it's going to open this little window. I'll make it a little bit bigger so that you can see where you can add a topic. So you're going to consider all the things that you need to cover in your day or your week, depending on what part of education organization you're in, if it's just elementary, if it's secondary or high school or higher ed and university, you can decide. So let's take, for example, this is a year 10 maths class, so it would be secondary, and we actually have a maths expert on the call with us today. So Tamina, feel free to hop on and let me know which topics you think would be a really good idea to add to our Google Classroom page. But basically, you would enter a topic. So we'll start with registration, for example. So if you want to do a registration, or you might want to call it, for example, check-in, because if you're in blended learning, that will be a nice opportunity for you to connect social emotional learning and have some creative activities there. So we'll click check-in to add first. So now there is a check-in topic on the left. I'm just going to make that a bit smaller so everybody can see. You can see that check-in is highlighted on the left underneath all topics, and it's also listed on the right-hand side. And using these three dots, if I made a spelling mistake or I've changed my mind, I can still click on rename to change that. If I would like to remove it, I can also delete it. And if I would like to bring students' attention or other educators' attention to directly that topic, I can also choose copy link, and I can actually send that link in an email or post it on the Google Classroom stream here as an embedded link. I'll just scroll down a bit so you can see that. I can click add and I can click link. And I can paste that link here, and it's going to take me directly to that section of the Google Classroom. So if I click on the link, you'll see it's opened another tab and it will take me directly to the check-in section. So for those of you who are regular G Suite users, that's a nice little trick for you guys to know. So back to the classwork page, I'll just click discard. Back to the classwork page, Tamina says that there are other nice ideas to add. So Tamina's listed here linear graphs, perfect. So we'll add create and we'll add linear graphs, awesome. And Tamina, it's really good that Tamina's here actually. I hadn't thought of the fact that I'm not actually a maths expert, so that's really handy. And Angles. Okay, awesome. All right, so we've got three topics now. I'm sure Tamina could list several, but we'll just stick with the three. She also says Venn diagrams and lots of different things, so that's perfect. So let's just stick with those three topics for now. Now, something that I like to do is I like to reorder the topics in things that I'm going to need in a certain order. So if you're organizing your classroom, if you're in an elementary or primary, for example, you could list like your English, math, science, and you could list them in the order that you use them in the day, for example, is a nice way that teachers like to do that in elementary or primary schools. Trigonometry. Oh, that's a good one. Lots of ideas coming in the chat. That's great, guys. Okay, so we'll stick with these three just to get through a bit more demo. So what you can do is you can grab it, and you see as I take my cursor over the section, over the topic, it actually pops it out, and that's G Suite's way of telling you that it's movable. So you can take it and you can drag it down. You see how it does that? So you can drop it in the middle, or if you didn't like that, you could drop it at the end. And so you can always move things around. I'm going to take my check-in and I'm going to move that to the top because that's the first thing we want to do with students when they join. So that's how we add a topic to Google Classroom. The second thing is how do we create the different things then? So let's take a look at a question first, and I'm actually going to do it inside my check-in because this was something that was really successful during remote learning for myself. We posted like a this or that question in the check-in, and so students were able to register for the class by doing interactive questions with each other. And we also had those students create their own this or that questions as well. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on Create at the top left. I'm going to click on Question. And now it opens up this window here. So I can write my question at the top. So Tamina, maybe you can help me out while I set up the question, and you can give me a fun Year 10 math question that we could post there for everybody. You can choose here with this drop-down menu if you would like to make it a multiple choice answer, so you could actually list the answers for students to pick from, or you can create a short answer. It's always nice during check-ins if you create a short answer because it gives them the space also to elaborate and to express themselves more, student agency and student voice. On the right hand side, you can choose how many points this question is worth. So if it were a quick formative assessment, for example, then you could allot points. There are lots of schools that don't like to use points at all also, as we discussed in part one, because the value is more on the engagement and the progression of the learning rather on the points. So G Suite is really awesome based on knowing that there are different approaches at different schools, and they give educators that choice. So you can choose ungraded or you can choose a point value. So I'll leave this ungraded since it's a maths check-in. And for the due date, this is where you would select when you would like students to have that done for. So I'm not going to list a due date because it's a check-in, but if you have an assignment, we'll get to that in a little bit, you can add one there. And then here, this is really important. This is how you organize this activity for your students in the classroom. So you'd click the drop-down menu on the right, and you're going to choose the topic that you would like to add it to. So since this is a check-in registration type question, I'm going to put it under the check-in section. If you're a form tutor or a homeroom teacher, then you could always have like fun, like I was saying, this or that, and it's a great way to get to know your students, and especially with re-entry back to school. Or you can use it for pre-activity work. So Tamina in a second is going to drop me a question, and I see that there. There we go. I see it in the chat, so I'm going to copy it. So Tamina's question that she's very kindly shared with us is, what is the exact answer for sin 30 in degrees? So this is really awesome. And if you want to add instructions, you can write instructions. So please feel free to share your answer and elaborate, for example, and be sure to respond to two of your classmates. So it's a great way to encourage them to engage with each other when they're responding to this question. So it's not just the teachers asking and the students responding, you're actually encouraging them to interact with each other because the learning process is then collaborative. So a really nice way to do that. Thank you, Tamina. Tamina has given me the correct answer in the chat. So if you're watching along, you can check the chat. I'm not going to give out the answer live yet. And then what you can do is you can choose on the bottom right, do you want students to respond to each other or not? So I'm going to leave that checked off because I would like them to respond to each other. And you can choose if you'd like students to be able to edit their answer. So for example, if it's a formative assessment, maybe you'd like them just to be able to respond once only. But since this is a get to know you, why not give them the chance to edit and learn as you go? All right, so then you can do three things now. You can add things to your question. So let's say Tamina, for example, has a really cool graph or a really cool image that engages students thinking, or maybe there is an article that will help students understand this concept better. You could click the add button on the bottom left and you can add a link or a little YouTube video. So I'm kind of putting Tamina on the spot because I didn't know she was joining today, but if she does have anything handy, then she can drop it in the link and we can add it. Or you can just leave it blank. You also have the option to click on create and you can create something brand new. So if you would like your students to actually show their work maybe with a Google drawing, you could add a Google drawing as a template and you could allow each student then to have their own Google drawing. So this is an option you could also do. If you didn't want to create that option, you can just click X and remove it. So it's really, really user friendly. Tamina also says in the chat that they could have a proof when they can draw it out or find a picture example. Perfect. So that's what I just showed with Google Drawing. That's awesome. Great minds think alike. Okay, great. So now what we can do at the top right hand side, you see there's an ask button. That's how you're going to post this question to your Google Classroom. If you would like to not post it exactly now, but you'd like to schedule it. So let's say you're super awesome educators like Mohammed and Tamina on the call, and you guys actually are well prepared in advance for the entire week. You could create all of this work in advance and you can schedule it to appear in the Google Classroom at the time of the lesson. So by clicking on the arrow instead, you can choose to schedule it. And just like we saw last Tuesday, you can also click on Save Draft if you'd like to go back to it later. So I could save the draft now, and then let's say I found a link I wanted to add to this question later, I can go back in and add it and then post it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Schedule so that you can see what that looks like. So for example, today is the 8th of August. So I'm going to click the drop down menu and click on the 8th, and notice how immediately 8 a.m. came up. But Google is so smart, right? It knows. It says that you must schedule this work for the future. It can't schedule in the past. So that's also really helpful. It means that you won't accidentally make the mistake of scheduling in the past. So that's really good. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule this for 3:25 p.m. because now it's currently 3:21 p.m. in the afternoon, and this should pop for us in 4 minutes from now. So I'm going to click on schedule, and you'll see there it's working. It says saving at the top right, and now it has been scheduled. We know that it's scheduled because it's still gray, and here there is text that says schedule for 3:25. I kind of showed you a trick in advance, but basically this also, now that I've taken my cursor over this link, it actually pops also, which means that you can drag and drop. So if I chose the wrong topic by mistake, I could actually move this into another topic and drop it there. What it's actually done though is it's created a copy because it knows from the original assignment that I actually chose the topic check-in. So now if I accidentally make that mistake, it's actually moved it. Sorry, there was just a delay. So what I can do is I can move it back again. Perfect. Tamina says she loves the scheduling feature. Yes, me too. And it's also really important to make sure that any work that you do schedule for your students is scheduled during the school hours, because if the students have their notifications for classroom turned on, that means that they may get a notification to their phone, for example, or their iPad or tablet. So we definitely want to make sure that we're conscientious of respecting people's time and that we don't wake people up. If you are someone who wakes up super early like myself or goes to bed super late like Tamina's just shared. Okay, so that's how you post a question. And then in a couple minutes this is going to pop and we'll take a look at what your students will be able to see. All right, so the next part, I'm going to move fairly quickly through the next parts because the screen to create those assignments is mostly the same for the others, so the others will be fairly quick. So let's take a look at create a quiz assignment. Okay, at the top left-hand side, you see the create button, and now I'm going to choose quiz assignment. When I choose quiz assignment, as you can see, this window basically looks the same as the question button, but there's a couple of differences. So first of all, I can add a title. So if you are obviously working at a school as an educator, a good really tip for everybody is to make sure that you use the same format when you're posting work in the Google Classroom so that it's easy for students to find. So the first thing you want to do is always start with the date, because then it will be chronologically easy for students to pull out. So I'm going to put here today is the 8th, but I'm actually going to schedule this for tomorrow because school is tomorrow, for example. So I'll put there 9th August 20. And we'll put there the subject, so this is maths, and then we'll put here the title. We'll say it is Introduction to Angles, since Tamina gave us the angles topic. Perfect. So then you can have instructions. Make sure, guys, that you're really, really, really explicit and very clear with your instructions. Even if you're synchronously in a Google Meet during the lesson, and it's recorded, it's really important to make sure that the instructions are clearly typed as well for each activity that you post in Google Classroom, so that students who may take a little bit longer to process the learning information can go back and look at what you're asking them to do. It's also really helpful for our students who join your lessons asynchronously, so after the live lesson has ended, or if this is a flipped learning. So this would be a really good example of a flipped Google Classroom, as this is an introduction to angles. So perhaps Tamina, for example, has a pre-Google form set, since this is for a quiz assignment, to check on what students already know about their learning. So this is a great way to flip the activity so that you know where the students are at when you're coming into this lesson. So you may use numbers, for example, to set your instructions. So please complete the attached Google form quiz before school tomorrow. And 2, please be as honest as possible so that we know what you know about angles or not. It will help you with your angles learning journey. 3, if you have any questions, please share them in the class comments below, for example. And maybe you want to say, oh, we already said that the time before tomorrow. So for the due date, we already said that it needs to be done before tomorrow. So we can click on, tomorrow is Sunday the 9th, okay? And we're going to say before the time of the lesson. So let's say this was a 10 a.m. lesson, so you may want it before they come to school at 8 a.m. And so maybe, because remember, some people work well early in the mornings, we definitely don't want to limit students. Maybe they're busy in the evening and they want to do it before they come to class. So as long as it's done before the learning or before you need it in order to process that information for your lesson. I'm going to leave it as ungraded because this is just a pre-assessment. Remember, this is just a pre-formative assessment, so it's only if if your school has decided that they would like to share the grades of the work the students are doing, then you would leave it graded and you would put the grade that it's out of, so that then Google Classroom can take all of those grades and curate them for you so that students can see their learning grade as they go. You can also choose to import grades or not, so I'll just leave that turned off. And this is really awesome. This is a blank form. So if Tamina, for example, didn't have her Introduction to Angles Google form ready, she could actually create it from scratch by clicking on the blank quiz, and now she has a blank quiz to start from. And if you're new to Google Forms, so since this is my trainer domain, I obviously haven't used it for a Google form yet. So it actually has you take a tour. So this is really awesome. Since this is a Back to Basics, this was actually a perfect example to show you guys that you can actually take the tour, and Google G Suite for Google Forms will take you through what to do with all of these buttons. So it's really awesome. So you can just click next once you've read it, and it actually highlights the different areas for you so you can go through and understand how the feature works. So I'm just going to click the X button here, as I know how Google Forms work, and you can set that up. So for example, you can click on the title, Introduction to Angles, and you can start to fill in everything that you need to do. So you'll notice everything is saved to Drive, and now if I click close, I'm actually going to take that and I'm going to click add it here as the title as well, and I'm going to close that. Now we can see if I click on it again, for example, it'll take me back in that my work has saved. So all the information is there. If, however, you already have a Google form quiz that you want to add to this quiz assignment, then you would just click add and you would add it from your Google Drive, or you can choose link if you have the link for the Google form and you can add it there. So that takes care of that. Also, G Suite, as we said earlier in the call, also has rubrics. And so basically that is a table where students can self-assess, and the teacher can also assess where their learning is at based on a rubric that you would create. So we can add that there if you want, and we can also use check for plagiarism, which is the originality report. However, just to be clear, the originality reports, if you are G Suite for Education, just G Suite for Education school, then you will have access to 3 originality reports only for the class, for that class. So for this year 10 Maths Google Classroom, you only have that feature 3 times. Once you've used it 3 times, you won't be able to use it again. If, however, your school is registered for G Suite Enterprise for Education, that means that you have unlimited originality report checkings. So among the other amazing features see, and it tells you, if I click on it, it tells you that you can enable it for 3 assignments per class. So I forgot what I was saying. So if you have registered for Enterprise, it's unlimited, and if not, it's just 3. So I'm obviously not going to use that since this is just a pre-check assessment. But for our English teachers, for example, if you want to be able to use that feature, then besides the other awesome features that G Suite Enterprise for Education does have, it may be a really amazing solution for your school to look into, just simply for originality reports, and also being able to record Google Meet sessions for safeguarding and asynchronous learning as well. So definitely check with your schools. That could be an amazing solution for you guys. So that takes us to here. So when we're ready to assign, remember at the top right, if you click the arrow, you'll be able to schedule or save as a draft if you're not done for anything in the create button. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click assign. And now it's going to post this quiz immediately so that my students can start working on it. And you'll see here that the icon for assignment is pink. And you'll also notice that our check-in assignment is now also pink. And it said that it posted at 3:28 p.m. If you remember, I had posted it for 3:25, but there is sometimes a few minutes delay. So if you know that's going to be the case, which it usually is, always schedule it to post maybe 5 minutes before the start of the lesson so that it's posted on time. And Tamina's saying that the originality reports would happen more for written tasks. Yes, that's correct, like literacy and coursework. Absolutely. Thank you, Tamina, for sharing that. Okay, so now what happened is, can anybody tell me in the chat why this classroom assignment did not appear in any of my topics? Why is it sitting at the top of my classroom classwork tab? What do you guys think? So since there's a little delay in the live chat, I'll go ahead and just remind everybody also that when it's posted, it actually shows you the due date on the right hand side of this. So you see here that it's due tomorrow at 8 a.m. So it's a really great way at a bird's eye view for you to be able to see details without even going in to check. Let's take a look at the stream now while we're waiting for comments to come on, and we can see here that my assignments have been added. So this was the welcome message that we shared from last Tuesday's part 1 session, and now we can see that I have these two here. Remember, like we said in last week, if you would like to change the settings so that those are showed in detail, you can scroll here and you can go to classwork on the stream. And remember, if you would like to see these detailed and not condensed, you can show attachments and details and click save. When you click save and you go to the stream now we can see the details on the stream. So some teachers, they like to leave it in the condensed view like we saw originally so that it doesn't clutter up the stream. And some people like to show it on the stream, so it's just a preference. I would say talk to your team though in your school, or faculty or department, whatever it's called based on your school. Talk to the people who are in your same team, and maybe even talk to like your entire section, primary or elementary or secondary. It's always easier for parents when they're supporting their children at home if classrooms have a generalized look. So if you can agree on a streamlined setting, then it will be easier for your students, especially in secondary as they're going between different subjects. And as I said before, if parents are supporting their children at home, it's easier if things look the same. Whether they're the same or different, obviously also really important that the instructional coach or learning technology director is clear with all stakeholders at your school so that they're aware of how your school has set up Google Classrooms. Okay, so we're going to finish this up shortly, but I did want to go over a couple other items. Muhammad has answered my question, and he says the topic was not assigned, and that is why the activity is showing at the top. That is correct, Muhammad. So you can do a couple of things. You can click on the three dots at the right hand side, and you can click on edit to add your topic. Okay, so you can add a topic that way, or what you can do is you can take it and you can move it down. So we're going to add it to the angles topic since this was an introduction to angles. And now if I go into that assignment and I click on edit, now we can see that it's automatically assigned the topic for us. So that saves us a lot of steps. G Suite has always got our back and always helping us save time. So remember, by moving it around, it will change the topic for you. Okay, so far we've added a question and an assignment. The rest is the same for the other two, which is a regular assignment and also a material. So I'll just do the material as a quick show for you. This one's really simple. So again, we could do the 10th August since that's this week as well. And we could say maybe angles, and we could say I'm trying to take a guess. Tamina says, good advice. Yes, consistency is important. Thank you. I was looking to you, Tamina, for a title for my next angles material. Let's go with, but there's a delay in the YouTube chat. So let me fill in the others while I'm waiting on Tamina, and I'll choose a topic, which is angles. And another little tip for everybody is on the right hand side here, you can choose if you would like to assign this to multiple Google Classrooms. So if you are a year 10 maths teacher, let's say there's 4 year 10 maths classes and there's different teachers, if you are sharing the planning at your school and all of your classrooms are set up by your G Suite administrator, which is something that I do for my schools that I work at, then you can have your one teacher, let's say, post all the angles work and another teacher post in the year 9 classes, so you can share the load, and it's really awesome. So by clicking on the drop down menu and checking off the Google Classrooms that you would like to post it to allows you to do that. You can also differentiate in any of these things, like the question, the assignment, anything in here you can differentiate by clicking on all students, and you can choose. So in this Google Classroom, as we recall from part 1, I didn't actually add my students, but this would be a list of students just like the classroom had a list, and you could unclick and click on the students that you would like to assign it to. So if this was one activity, let's say a mastery activity, you could assign it to just the students who are at that stage of their learning for mastery level. So it's a great way to differentiate as well. Tamina has given me a title now. Thank you, Tamina. Angles in parallel lines. Perfect. I definitely did not have my maths learning hat on for today, guys. That's great. I'm lucky she came. Okay, so we don't have time, but remember, always make sure that your instructions are very clear. This, for example, could be also a flipped learning since it's a material. You would use the material activity anytime that you would like your students to have access to content, but you do not expect them to turn in any work. Now, there is a flip side to that I'll tell you in a second. So basically, if you would like them to do work and submit it to you, you would choose the assignment activity. So again, material is just access to content. However, I like to get creative with this material, and I like to post my collaborative spaces here. So if you've created a Google Drive with a bunch of different tools inside, like a Google Doc and a spreadsheet and maybe a Jamboard, getting students to collaborate, I like to post the link for my Google Drive here as well, so that students, it could be for project-based learning, for example. So there's not an actual due date for this activity, but it's an ongoing assignment. So I wouldn't have an assignment set for each task, which you could do also. But if you have a project-based learning, like a STEAM approach to your classroom, then you could clearly add a collaborative space that way here, where students are interacting together, and then they have access to this in your stream. And just like I showed you guys that you can move the topics up, as you're adding other activities into your Google Classroom, you could take this project-based learning activity and you can keep moving it to the top because it is an ongoing assignment. So that's another little tip as well. Just checking on Tamina. She's talking about angles and shapes. Tamina's so awesome. What a superstar. If you guys would like help with maths in remote or distance or hybrid blended learning, you need to connect with Tamina. She's super duper. Tamina says she's used material activity also for answers and flipped content. Yes, awesome. So that gives you guys some examples. So again, we can schedule or we can click on post. So I'll go ahead and post that so that you can see also it's gone into angles, and you'll see that G Suite's always trying to help us visually as well. They have the different icons for the different types of assignments you've posted. So it tells us when it's posted, and of course we didn't add a due date, so there's no due date listed there. I can actually go in now and I can move this one on the top as you just saw, because this one is due before the second one. If it were me, and I know Tamina does the same as well since we worked together before, you can schedule that to start at the beginning of the class that you're teaching. Okay, so let's take a look at the top. Our Google Classroom starting to fill in very nicely. You can also click on plus create and you can choose other things. If you wanted to reuse a post, so let's say you've used a Google Classroom last year and you had some great activities you'd like to use in your new one, you can click reuse post, and you can actually find the activity you're searching for from any Google Classroom where you are a teacher in that Google Classroom. So we'll just take a second while it's loading. Tamina says she worries about what to do with an activity that has a deadline that is weeks away, so students can forget sometimes. So this helps for those who are anxious. Yeah, absolutely, Tamina. So you can always just keep moving it up with the deadline. Absolutely agree. Well done. So could be with the internet connection, it's just taking a little longer to load because I'm obviously streaming live through some different platforms. But basically it would load your classes for you, and you could click on a class and then you could choose the activity that you've already created and you can reuse it on this Google Classroom. Again, another amazing time saver. It's probably one of my favorite things about G Suite. I think I say that every time I do a webinar because I just love so much about G Suite and Google for Education, as I'm sure you guys can see, but it really truly is one of my favorite things because I, in my role in education, access a lot of Google Classrooms at the same time. So these things like reuse posts, scheduling, saving draft, these all help me save a lot of time in my role. So hopefully that's helped you guys as well. I'll just close that because it really is taking a long time for it to load. So we've taken a look at quiz assignment, question, and there's also the assignment. It's basically the same as the quiz assignment if you click on assignment, except you don't have the quiz showing in the bottom left just behind my image. So everything else is the same, and you can add a rubric and you can check for plagiarism there as well. So we won't create that just because we're pretty much out of time now. And if you wanted to add a web page, we showed you how to do that. You just click on the link button. And using calendars, that's also really helpful. So I will show you guys that just before we end the session today. At the top right hand side of the classwork tab, you see here that there is a Google Calendar and there is a Class Drive folder. So just a heads up for everybody, if you click on Class Drive folder, this literally is the Google Drive, as you can see, for this Google Classroom. And notice here that there is the shared button because it's shared with basically any teacher and any student that is part of this Google Classroom. So it's really awesome. For a teacher, you can go in if you don't want to have to scroll through the different activities and if you don't want to have to scroll through the different students. At a bird's eye view, you can go directly into the folder and see all of the work for that class. So that's really helpful. And that is also what your students see. So when they go to their My Drive, they can see Year 10 Maths also in the classroom folder, and they'll be able to see all of the work that is assigned to them in their classwork folder as well. Anything that they've created for that class pretty much. So that's really helpful to know. And then we have the Google Calendar. So when I open the Google Calendar, obviously this is my training domain, Google Calendar, so there's not too much on there except for my GEG events. However, anything that's posted there, so let me just see if we go to the 9th. I don't see that anything's posted for the due date, but you would be able to see anything here that has a due date. Because I'm the teacher. So for the students, when they click on the Google Calendar in this page here, this Google Calendar, they will see any due dates that they have on their calendar. So really, really, really awesome to know that that exists. So when you're asking your students how can they check what they have, they can click on that. Also on the student Google Classroom, you can see there's a little box under just above my head. I'm actually going to move my picture out the way so that you can see it fully. There you go. So you can see there's a little box here that says upcoming, and it actually tells you what's due soon. And so students also see that from the student view of the Google Classroom, and they can click on view all, and it takes them to this bird's eye view so that they can actually see what is due. Now, obviously this is the teacher view because the teacher is seeing how many students have handed their work in and how many students have not. It shows the work that's in progress and it shows work without a due date. And your students will see basically the same thing except for these turned in and assigned functions. And it will show them when is the due date, just like it says here, due tomorrow at 8 a.m. So if your students are looking for a quick bird's eye view as well, that is a great place to go to. And often students and teachers forget that that's there. They're so used to just focusing on the stream on the right. So don't forget that the upcoming window is really helpful to use as well. Oh, great. So Tamina says she's learned something new as well. That's cool. Okay, so that takes us to the end of today's session. I had a feeling that we would not get to rubrics or originality reports, and that's okay because those really aren't basic features, but I have been able to share with you where to find them in the assignment section and how to check it, to turn it on and start to use it. But if you would like to, for example, so how to turn on originality reports, you can click on this Google file as I shared early, and it's an article for teachers that tells you how to get everything started, and your links are there. There's helpful questions and images to show you exactly what to do. And so Google's really helpful. Everything that we need is always right here, and now it's all right there for you, included in today's agenda link. So if you would like to take a look at any of those, if you would like to try anything out, please feel free to do so. And then join us tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. GMT for the office hours, so that we can help you work through any of that, answer any questions you have about assignments or anything related to any of our GEGMN Summer Saturdays episodes. So that brings us to the end. I feel a little sad. I really love these 30-minute, actually we went over a little bit today, short sessions to use the G Suite for Education tools, but that is the end of our 6 episode series for 2020 summer. So yeah, you're welcome, Tamina. Hi, Abdul. Abdul was here and I didn't even see him. Welcome, Abdul, from GEG Dutsa in Nigeria. We're just closing up for today, but we look forward to seeing everybody at office hours tomorrow. And if you have any colleagues in the area who would be very interested to check out this session in Arabic, then please feel free to join us in 15 minutes with our Google trainer, Mutassim, from GEGMN, who will be facilitating the same session in Arabic. Also, just to let everybody know, we do have our monthly webinar, which was moved from the end of July because we had the Eid al-Adha holiday. So we are going to give that live tomorrow afternoon. So if you'd like to join us also tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. GMT plus 3, so that will be 2 p.m. UK time, and I don't know any other time zones off the top of my head, but yeah, we'd love to see you for an hour of celebration and checking out all of G Suite's July updates. So tomorrow at 4 p.m., tune in to the GEGMN channel for our monthly webinar series, where we will actually have a pretty big announcement on a global Google for Education event that is happening from the 11th to the 12th of August. I'm having time zone issues. Is it 11 to 12 or 12 to 13? I'll have to check my dates. Anyway, it's coming up in the next few days, and we will be hosting some exciting pre and post events from different GEGs globally around the world. So check out, tune in, join us, check it out tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. at our monthly webinar for that exciting announcement. Perfect. So I would like to wish everybody a super awesome, sunny, bright Saturday afternoon and a great weekend ahead for those of you who are enjoying a Saturday, Sunday weekend. And for those of you who are heading back to work tomorrow, then wishing you a great day at work tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the monthly webinar tomorrow afternoon. Thank you for taking time to support education and your respective communities across your own region as well as internationally. We appreciate everything you're doing for your education community, and we appreciate each of you. Have a great day ahead, guys. Thanks again.